As Malcolm X once said, "The future belongs to those who prepare for it today." So, we delve into the past, to understand a man who shaped the future. In the heartland of America, Omaha, Nebraska, a boy named Malcolm Little was born in the year 1925. His roots were planted in a soil steeped in struggle and adversity. Malcolm was the fourth of 7 children, born into a family that was not unfamiliar with the harsh realities of racial violence. His parents, Earl and Louise Little, were staunch supporters of Marcus Garvey's Universal Negro Improvement Association. Their outspoken beliefs made them targets of the Ku Klux Klan and other white supremacist groups. The Littles' courage in facing these threats was not enough to protect them from the tragic outcomes that awaited. The family was forced to relocate to Lansing, Michigan, in search of a safer life. However, the specter of racial violence followed them. In 1931, when Malcolm was only 6 years old, his father, Earl Little, met a brutal and untimely death. The official report claimed it was an accident, but many, including young Malcolm, believed it was a racially motivated murder. The death of his father was a devastating blow to the family. The loss of their main breadwinner plunged them into financial hardship. Louise Little, Malcolm's mother, struggled to keep the family afloat. Her efforts were in vain and her mental health began to deteriorate. In 1939 she was institutionalized, leaving Malcolm and his siblings at the mercy of child welfare services. This marked the end of their life as a family unit, as the children were split up and sent to various foster homes and institutions. From these humble and harrowing beginnings, Malcolm Little would rise to become Malcolm X, a voice that would echo through the ages. In 1946, Malcolm was sentenced to 10 years in prison for burglary. He was imprisoned in Norfolk Prison, where he became highly involved in the Norfolk Prison Debating Society. Malcolm X is Norfolk Prison's most famous former inmate. While serving time there in the late 1940s, his experiences with the Norfolk Prison Debating Society helped him to mature into one of the most influential public speakers of the 20th century. He credited Norfolk Prison Debating Society as his baptism into public speaking. Behind prison bars, a transformation began, shaping Malcolm Little into Malcolm X. Born Malcolm Little in Omaha, Nebraska in 1925, he was a man who would later reshape his identity and influence a generation. Incarceration marked the turning point in his life. It was in this crucible of hardship that Malcolm Little's transformation into Malcolm X truly took root. In prison, Little was introduced to the teachings of the Nation of Islam, a religious movement that combined elements of traditional Islam and black nationalist thought. The teachings resonated with him, offering answers to questions he had long pondered. He began to see the world through a new lens, a lens shaped by the nation's teachings of black empowerment and self-sufficiency. As his faith grew, so did his disdain for his birth name, Little, a name he saw as a lingering symbol of an enslaved past. He chose to replace it with X, a symbol for the tribal name he believed he'd lost in the brutal trade of human lives. As Malcolm X, he championed economic and social autonomy for African Americans. He held firm anti-taxation and anti-socialist positions, believing that these systems perpetuated economic disparity and hindered the progress of his people. He argued that African Americans should control and benefit from the wealth of their own communities rather than being subjected to the fiscal whims of a system that had historically oppressed them. His fiery rhetoric and radical views were not without controversy. They ignited debates, stirred emotions, and even incited violent events. Yet they also inspired a generation of African Americans to stand up, to fight for their rights, and to demand their place in a society that had long marginalized them. As Malcolm X, he was more than just a man. He was an idea, a movement, a revolution. His life was a testament to the power of the transformative power of prison, and his legacy continues to echo in the fight for racial equality and justice. With influence comes controversy, and Malcolm X was no stranger to either. Malcolm X, a figure of powerful influence, was often embroiled in controversies. His radical views, particularly his anti-taxation and anti-socialist positions, made him a contentious figure in the eyes of many. He argued that taxes were a form of economic exploitation, and that socialism, despite its promise of equality, was a system that inherently bred corruption and inefficiency. These assertions, while attracting a following, also sparked intense debates and opposition, specifically from the Democratic Party. Furthermore, Malcolm X's influence was not confined to debates and discussions. His fiery speeches and powerful rhetoric were said to have incited violent events. Some critics argued that his words fueled racial tensions, leading to violent clashes and unrest. However, his supporters contended that he was merely a vocal advocate for the rights and freedoms of African Americans, and that any violence was a consequence of the existing racial tensions, not a result of his actions or words. The most enduring controversy surrounding Malcolm X, however, is the conspiracy theory about his assassination. Officially, his death in February 1965 was the work of 3 members of the Nation of Islam, an organization he had once been a part of, but had left amidst growing tensions. Yet many believe that the truth is far more complex and sinister. Some theories suggest the involvement of larger, more powerful entities, possibly even government agencies, in the assassination. They argue that such entities saw Malcolm X as a threat to the status quo and conspired to eliminate him. While these theories remain unproven, they have added to the enigmatic aura surrounding Malcolm X. His life, marked by transformation, activism, and controversy, ended in a mystery that continues to intrigue researchers and enthusiasts alike. To this day, the truth about Malcolm X's assassination remains shrouded in mystery. Malcolm X left behind a legacy that continues to resonate today. Born as Malcolm Little, he later adopted the name Malcolm X as a rejection of the Little surname, which he associated with the legacy of slavery. His voice was a clarion call against the oppressive forces of racism, taxation, and socialism. He was a figure of controversy, a figure of change, a figure of self-determination, a figure of resilience, a figure of hope for a brighter future. In the face of adversity, Malcolm X emerged as a leading figure in the civil rights movement, influencing future generations of activists with his call for self-determination. Though his life was cut short in a storm of bullets, his legacy of intellectual pursuits carries on. Malcolm X once said, "Education is the passport to the future." How right he was. His life, his struggle, and his legacy continue to educate and inspire us as we strive to create a future that honors his vision. If you like this video and want more content, please like, subscribe, comment, and share. Until next time, I'm Clump of Cells. Stay informed and love your history.